Hello, I'm Robert, and I have quite a character for a dad. My dad has an inflated ego and believes he's the most attractive man alive. What he doesn't seem to realize is that he attracts women like a magnet because of his millionaire status. It's a revolving door of different women every week, never the same one twice. This week, though, he brought along someone quite unexpected, Brooklyn. Brooklyn was painfully thin, sporting an excessive amount of makeup, and had a speech pattern that resembled that of a tipsy elderly lady. The first time we crossed paths, she casually told me, "Oh, I'm just sorry you're 20 years younger than me," followed by a distasteful laugh shared with my father. I couldn't fathom why my dad would choose to date someone like her. I was accustomed to him selecting attractive 20-year-olds, much like Brooklyn's daughter, Nora. Nora was undeniably stunning. She possessed a flawless figure and the most mesmerizing blue eyes one could ever encounter. I found it difficult to divert my gaze from her. The four of us dined at a fancy restaurant, and my dad suggested that we let the kids get acquainted before delving into any serious discussions. Wait, was my dad hinting at marrying Brooklyn? I harbored a desire to date Nora, and the prospect of her becoming my stepsister felt awkward and slightly uncomfortable. I didn't want to bring it up during dinner for fear of embarrassing her. However, during one of the ladies' restroom breaks, I leaned over and cautiously asked, "Hey, Dad, are you seriously considering marrying Brooklyn?" To my shock, he responded, "Oh, hell no. I'm marrying her daughter, Nora." My heart nearly stopped, and I exclaimed, "What? Nora is my age and you're 30 years older than her." He shrugged and said, "Oh, what do you know? It's my life, and she's into me big time." A wave of sickness and revulsion washed over me. Why would Nora subject herself to marrying my repulsive older father? Upon the women's return to the table, it was evident that something was amiss with Nora. Her red, teary eyes couldn't escape my notice. I also observed that her mother consistently spoke on her behalf, finishing all her sentences. When my dad inquired, "So, where do you envision the wedding taking place?" Nora was on the verge of answering, but her mother promptly interjected, "At the Four Seasons Hotel, naturally." The frustration simmering beneath Nora's expression didn't go unnoticed, and I began to piece together the whole situation. It was becoming clear that they were pressuring her into this marriage. My heart ached for her. The following day, Nora visited our home to meet with the wedding planner for the wedding arrangements. When they concluded their discussion, I entered the room and dared to ask her, "Why are you going along with this?" She remained silent for a few moments before finally admitting, $2 million. I gasped in disbelief. $2 million? What could that possibly mean? Nora went on to explain, "My mother is forcing me into this. She's drowning in debt and desperately needs the money to start anew. Your dad is offering me $2 million to marry him for a few years." The situation felt sickeningly twisted. Unexpectedly, Nora turned to me, kissed me with intensity, and confessed, "But I care about you. I want you. Can we find a way out of this?" I reciprocated her feelings and kissed her back. Afterward, I suggested, "We could run away, but we need money. I don't think we both have enough." I shared a plan with her. "Convince my father to give you half the money before the wedding. It's our only shot at escaping this situation," I urged. Nora drew closer, kissed me again, and said she'd consider the idea. My determination to find a solution and escape with Nora intensified. That very night, I made a bold move, infiltrating my father's office with the intent of preventing him from marrying Nora. I decided to take matters into my own hands and grab $20,000 from my father's safe. I quickly messaged Nora, instructing her to meet me at the airport. We were both brimming with excitement as we boarded the plane, knowing that a new chapter in our lives awaited us. We secured a quaint, cozy apartment to spend our time together. When Nora walked into the bedroom, she was met with a sight of a bed covered in red roses and surrounded by flickering candles. Her surprise was evident, and before she could utter a word, I couldn't resist pulling her close and planting a passionate kiss on her lips. It was a moment I had been yearning for, and Nora's response was equally fervent. She professed her love for me, and we both knew we were in for an incredible journey. As you might imagine, life was exceptionally sweet. However, one day as I ventured out to buy groceries and returned to our apartment, Nora was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as I called her repeatedly, leaving voicemails, but received no response. Desperate for answers, I noticed a note left behind. The note read, "Thanks for helping me escape, but we're not meant to be." My mind went blank for a few moments. This had to be some kind of joke, right? To my astonishment, she had left me with only $1,000. I felt like I had been deceived by someone I trusted. I sat on the bed, pondering my next steps. With just $1,000, I knew I couldn't cover my expenses, and returning to my father was out of the question. He was likely aware that I had run away with Nora, given our simultaneous departure. I spent 2 days contemplating my predicament when I spotted a wealthy woman entering a restaurant where I was having lunch. An idea struck me. Why couldn't I become a gold digger? After all, women did it all the time. Without hesitation, I decided to pursue this wealthy lady. Her name was Violet, and she was in her 50s. I trailed her for a week to discover her usual haunts and started to make my moves. Then one day, while she was enjoying coffee in the park, I sat down next to her and quipped, "What a lucky cup of coffee." And she blushed, a reaction reminiscent of how young girls often do. Our conversation flowed easily, and before I knew it, I found myself in her bed. We began dating, and our relationship grew stronger with time. After a while, she asked, "Would you like to live with me?" Without hesitation, I expressed my enthusiasm, and so I moved in with her. Violet lavished me with her wealth, providing for all my needs, even going so far as to gift me a brand new Mercedes. However, 3 months later, Violet approached me with a request. She said, "I need you to accompany me to a wedding." I agreed readily, telling her that I'd do anything for her. And so we attended the wedding. Only to my shock and disbelief, it turned out to be my father's wedding, to Nora of all people. The twist of fate was astounding. I drew near to my father, and he greeted me with a casual, "Hey son, where have you been? I tried to call you several times. I thought you were traveling or something." I couldn't believe it. He was completely unaware of what had transpired. I turned my gaze to Nora and said, "Hi, I hope you're happy about marrying my dad." She remained silent, but my father chimed in, "Yes, she is. And congratulations, you're going to be a big brother." Pregnant? It felt like an absurd joke. I couldn't fathom her lies. It became clear that she had orchestrated this all along, plotting to remove me from the picture so she could claim all the wealth for herself and her new lover. My anger surged, and I felt manipulated by both of them. I couldn't let this deception slide, so I decided it was time for revenge. At the wedding party, I raised my glass and called for everyone's attention. All eyes turned to me, including a visibly nervous Nora. I declared, Dad and I share the same taste. We even dated the same woman. She ran away with me for a week before returning to marry him. A heavy silence fell over the room, the guests appearing shocked and taken aback. Nora left the room in haste. My dad wore an expression of anger and disappointment. I had disrupted the wedding for the second time, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in my actions. My father, as flawed as he was, didn't deserve to be deceived. However, this time, I was left entirely on my own. My dad kicked me out of the house, and I had virtually nothing. Even Violet refused to take me back. I had to find a job and settle into a small apartment for 2 years until I received some dreadful news from my father's lawyer. Tears welled up in my eyes as I heard the lawyer's words, "Your father has passed away." Regret and sorrow washed over me, realizing that I had missed the opportunity to mend our relationship. However, the lawyer continued with surprising news. "He left all his wealth to you." It was a bittersweet revelation. I returned to our family home and assumed control of my father's business. In the following years, I became a highly successful businessman. I found love, marrying a beautiful woman, and together we had 3 wonderful children. Life seemed to be on an upswing. 2 decades later, while conducting interviews for potential employees at my company, a striking man named Gavin appeared. After the interview, a sense of familiarity struck me, and I asked, "You seem oddly familiar. Have we met before?" Gavin flashed a smile and responded, "I don't believe so, sir, but you might know my mother. She's quite a successful businesswoman herself." Curiosity piqued, I inquired about her name, to which he replied, "Nora Gray." That name triggered a flood of questions. Had she gotten married back then? Was she truly pregnant during our past encounter? Could this be my long-lost brother? I couldn't resist, so I searched for Nora's image online, and the resemblance was unmistakable. I needed to uncover the truth. To get answers, I decided to meet her. I discreetly researched her online and located her workplace. I approached her office, informing her secretary that I wished to speak with her incognito. As I walked into her office and our eyes met, she gasped, clearly taken aback. I implored, "I just want to know the truth." Intrigued, I asked, "Is Gavin my brother?" She gazed at me for a moment and then replied, "Actually, he's your son." Disbelief overtook me, and I shouted, "You're lying." She responded coolly, "No, I'm not. I discovered I was pregnant the same week we ran away. I hadn't been intimate with your father since then. So why did you return and marry him?" I pressed further, desperate for answers. She let out a heavy sigh and admitted, "I didn't want our child to face the struggles I had. At that time, we didn't have enough money, and I believed your father would be a better provider. He could afford everything for me and the baby." I sank into a chair, trying to absorb this revelation. My voice trembled as I asked, "Does Gavin know?" She panicked and retorted, "No, he doesn't. He believes his father is my late husband, who passed away 2 years ago. You must not tell him, do you hear me? Are you out of your mind?" I couldn't help but express my frustration, asking, "Couldn't you have come up with a better lie?" She responded firmly, "No, and I'd rather keep things as they are." Leaving her office, I immediately called Gavin, informing him, "Hey, I hired you for this job." So there we were, father and son, working together every day. But the courage to reveal the truth to him remained elusive.